All right. And hey, good morning from Los Angeles and California here today, live once again on our wonderful media and marketing broadcast. We're going out live to Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're going out to LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Twitter. Did I mention that? We have a wide network distributed out here, and I really appreciate all your feedback, your input, the comments, the likes, the shares. We're on a mission here to educate and help, inform, and inspire. All of those things and more. We'll do it all, right? But I'm excited today because we're doing something a little bit unique here. We're presenting kind of a complementary space. So obviously, anything we do is to grow your business, to help find new ways and strategies to help do that. And I'm excited because I got Jeremy Bourne here, CEO of CoinGenius.ai. If you're looking at this on the screen, you'll see it. Jeremy, how are you doing today?
John, I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on. Really excited to be on the podcast.
Yeah, sweet. And you're in Southern California, same as me, right? You're down in Irvine, you said?
You know what? I'm in Orange County, between Orange County, like South Orange County and LA. But we have an office in South Orange County in Rancho Santa Margarita.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm actually heading down there on Wednesday. I'm speaking at a university there, Chapman University. That's pretty close by, I think.
That was where I got my undergrad. That's great. Great university.
Oh, great. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So we're going to talk about business here today. Obviously, we're talking about CoinGenius. We're going to talk about this trading platform, which is an AI-powered cryptocurrency intelligence engine. That's really a mouthful, but really these are really smart people and smart experts that we have on these broadcasts. And there's new ways to obviously use technology and leverage existing ones as well. And by the way, I wanted to just talk a little bit about this, Jeremy, before we dig in. Bitcoin, kind of came out of the finance crisis, the banking crisis, the bomb that happened in 2008, 2009, and there's been a lot of different what we call altcoins, right? In the space, Bitcoin being one of those. And actually, let me see here. I was just looking at. And there's a point to all of this, by the way, so bear with me here. I noticed, Bitcoin, you're looking at the Yahoo interactive stock chart right here. And can you see it there, Jeremy?
Yep, I see it.
Yeah, so it's at 5,209.68. And one of the first questions that I wanted to ask you as an expert in this field, there's a lot of questions about, obviously, sort of just a brand new beginner. What is Bitcoin? What is this cryptocurrency stuff? And maybe you can speak to that just for a moment. But what I really wanted to get into is, sort of the pros and cons here, the benefits, the drawbacks. There's a lot of volatility here, clearly. In fact, I use some apps on my phone here, and it was, let's see, I have, what is it called? I don't use it too much, obviously, because I would know the name. It's like, Abra. Are you familiar with that? Abra?
Yeah, no, Abra is a pretty interesting app. They've been around for a little while, and I think they're solving a big problem with it's just the ease of use of getting into the space. So
Yeah.
they have a really great application. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of this and tools and technology out there, but maybe just a quick roundup of sort of this cryptocurrency space and the pros and cons or the benefits, drawbacks, as I mentioned, as we start to dive into this, because I think for new folks who perhaps have heard and understood a little bit about this, it'd be great to get a refresher right from the expert here.
Yeah, so a few minutes on it is pretty tough, right? But I'll try to do as good of a job as I can. But really, in essence, it's very clear to kind of describe it in two different ways, right? There's blockchain, which is the underlying technology that powers cryptocurrency. And there's cryptocurrency, a layer above blockchain, which is basically utilized to transfer assets, intellectual property, different things across the blockchain. So what is a blockchain? A blockchain is basically a distributed ledger, right? So instead of, you think about it in terms of a bank, you go to Wells Fargo, you go on your bank account, and you see debits and credits. They are a centralized body that stores the ledger of transactions in your particular account. As opposed to blockchain, there is no centralized governing body. In fact, people all around the world download the blockchain, let's just say for Bitcoin. So each cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Ethereum, they have their own blockchains, their own unique blockchains typically. So each person around the world downloads a copy of the blockchain on their computer. So now it's distributed across the world on multiple computers. So now it's really hard to to penetrate that, to be able to hack that, because it's not in one centralized location. If I hacked into Wells Fargo, I could disrupt everything. If North Korea, as an example, wanted to hack in and mess things up, they can, because it's one centralized location that they're trying to disrupt, versus how do you get access to hundreds of, if not thousands of different computers distributed across the world? So that's the power of the blockchain, is that the information that transactions are stored all across the world. It's happening 24 hours a day in terms of the markets, in terms of trading. It's not like the stock market to where it closes and opens at certain times. It's 24 hours a day, and it's global, right? So it's a very interesting type of environment that we are in here. It's a very disruptive technology that can disrupt a lot. And we can get into a few different applications there, but just for transparency purposes, it's really about blockchain is that distributed ledger technology, and the way in which you transfer assets across the blockchain is through a cryptocurrency, i.e. Bitcoin or Ethereum or something else.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, that's a good intro, and frankly, a refresher for some that perhaps are not too familiar as well. And one of the things that I know in this space, we talk a lot about the technology and how this has come out from that banking crisis back in 08, 09. But just like with anything online in general, this notion of trust, confidence, building communities and stuff. If you have a great technology and you don't have sort of buy-in from the marketplace, what's your thoughts or comments on that? I mean, it's like you read in the news and the media, of course, you hear a lot about fake news, but there's a lot of, sort of headline bashing and, people, hear things, right? And so how do you create that confidence? And, do you at your organization and with your firm sort of get into this kind of discussion at all? Or do you look at this sort of market broad?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the biggest challenges that the industry faces, and I think this is rampant across a number of different industries. I mean, even in politics or banking or traditional equities, I mean, there's fake news rampant everywhere, right? But I think Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are a lot more susceptible to these types of things, thus increasing the volatility of the particular assets, because it's such a nascent industry still. There's not clear guidelines in terms of regulation, especially in the United States. There's other countries around the world that are moving forward a little bit quicker, but because there's so much gray area in terms of regulation, there is news, there's sentiment from consumers that drive the market up or down, and it can happen in a moment's notice. You've seen the volatility just in the last week, right? There was $100 million that flooded the market on April 1st, April Fool's Day. And because of that, it drove the market up tremendously. And it's pretty interesting to see what's happened. It went from 3,500 now, to your point, it's about 5,200. But it stayed in the last 6 to 8 months prior to that. It was just right around 3,500. It was pretty flat. It wasn't very interesting. A lot of people actually left the space because it wasn't so interesting, because they couldn't make money. So for us as an organization, it's trying to help people, because I'll give you a little bit of background. And for those people that don't understand the industry or are not as familiar, in 2017, at the end of the year, the market ran up. I think we all heard about it. The market went up, and in January of 2018, it went all the way up, Bitcoin, to 19,000. The market capitalization was about $830 billion in this industry. But the problem is once we hit that high, we hit a low very quickly, and the market, just the bottom fell out, and all of a sudden people that got in because it was about FOMO, fear of missing out, they got in as a speculative play because they're saying Bitcoin is going 10,000, 12,000, 15,000. Everybody's like, oh my God, I have to get in. But the problem is that most people in any cycle bought at the height, and then the smart money always sells it off and shorts it on the way down, and everybody else is left, as they say, holding the bag. So with that said, there was so many people that literally lost billions of dollars in just a matter of weeks because the market completely fell out. And it's because they were investing with emotion, and they weren't investing in smart and sound data. And it's because there were so many things happening in the space. There were so many news articles giving them false hope. There were so many things happening to where they couldn't understand and quantify all of those different types of stories, and those influencers saying different things of, I think it's going to 100,000, I think it's going to 250,000. How do you actually sort through the noise and make sense out of it all, so you can give the regular Joe a good idea as to what the market is doing? And that is our goal as an organization, is to give the 99% access to the same types of tools and data that the 1% have.
See, that is a perfect lead into, I opened up the screen here, CoingGenius.ai, smart and sound data. That's what really caught my eyes and ears on that one. I'm sure that, I don't know if Warren Buffett is in this space at all, but if there's anything to learn from this, it's the smart and sound data. Making decisions that are not based on fake news or a news flash for that day or the next day, and this sort of back and forth stuff, but really building for the future. And as a business owner, which there's a lot of those folks on here, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs even. How do you get into the space, and how do you use this in such a way that you're not, feeling like, whoa, I'm playing on the bleeding edge of a cliff, right? It's basically sound right. and valid data, or at least valid enough data to where you can make decisions based on just proper investing advice or direction, rather than just let me just play this game and see if I can become a millionaire or something, right?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of people that have got into it because they wanted to be a millionaire. It's how can you become an overnight millionaire? Well, that's typically just not possible. No. Everything that you do should be a diversified approach, right, to mitigate some of the risk if you're an investor in some way. Even if you're a really non-sophisticated investor, you're a grandma that just wants to get exposure to different things. You're somebody who's 50 years old and you want to get a little exposure, but your risk profile is not that of a 20-year-old, right? You don't have as much time to ride the ups and downs of the market. I would say digital assets, and I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Do your own research. But the way I approach it specifically is that this is basically a bleeding edge technology, yes, in terms of blockchain. The way in which, like I said before, you transfer assets across the blockchain is through cryptocurrencies. Through all the research that my team and I have done, I think that this is a very viable industry. I come from digital marketing and consulting, and I've worked with all the top Fortune 500 brands, and the cutting edge companies are all investing very, very heavily into this space in terms of blockchain infrastructure and integrating it within their business. And I will say with a high degree of certainty, if you're not looking at this space right now as a brand, even as a brand that's small, you will get left behind, because everybody who knows what's going on in the future is investing heavily into this. You're seeing people like JP Morgan release a coin. You're seeing people like Facebook going to release a coin via WhatsApp. Yeah. Mass adoption is happening. You have companies like Opera that are releasing apps that's just a really easy to use interface, so you can invest in cryptocurrencies and stocks and different things and actually utilize it. So this is the next wave. This is the next movement. And if it's not on your radar in some capacity, it really, really needs to be.
Yeah, that's a great summary. In fact, I was using Abra here last week. I just paid for some software and just held it up to the screen and paid, and it just felt really cool. I've done it several times now, but us in digital marketing, we really live on the sort of the leading or bleeding edge, also in terms of understanding what's working in the marketplace, from Facebook ads, Google, organic, paid, etc. And diversification is the word here as well. That comes up quite often. In fact, any discussion that says, we're just going to use one channel and go to town, it's just a matter of time before that breaks or things go to hell in a handbasket. So you need that diversification. And you mentioned the digital marketing aspect of this, and we're looking again at your screen here, CoinGenius.ai. How do you reach out, and how do you find customers or clients or prospects to sort of get them on board here, but as well as education around this space? Because clearly you have a lot of data to share here.
Yeah, that's a really good question too. So when I started this company, I was at a digital marketing firm, had this concept for this idea, because I realized getting in as a trader in the cryptocurrency space, that the information lived all over the internet. It wasn't in one place. And I found myself doing hours of research. And by the time I figured out what I wanted to do and what I wanted to trade upon, I would go back to the exchange once I was armed with the knowledge from all the research I did. But the problem is as soon as I went to trade, I realized that I completely missed the boat sometimes by 20 to 30%, because in 2017, there was so much volatility. So I set out to create something as a solution for myself to aggregate all the information across the net in terms of all the market data, the sentiment, et cetera, all in one location, so I can make quicker decisions. Well, I realized very quickly that everybody in the industry had the exact same problem, and that's why I created CoinGenius. So how does that relate to digital marketing? Well, I decided to obviously build this business, but how do you build a business with an idea? you can surface this and network to your friends and family and your network on LinkedIn, etc. So I got a few people that realized like, wow, this is a great idea. Let's build this. But really how I built the business in terms of my team. And by the way, after a year, we're still a startup and we've been building for the last year and doing a lot of back testing and making sure that everything that we're doing is legitimate. So we're creating value for the market. But in order to attract the top talent, which I knew I needed from the top data scientists, mathematicians, AI practitioners out there, I had to source people that I didn't know. So I literally went on LinkedIn and researched everybody that I would need to fill the gaps to complement my skill sets, because there's always gaps. And I had to specifically target those individuals that had an affinity or have done something in crypto or showed some interest in cryptocurrency or blockchain, whether it's a post of theirs or they put it as, a tag on their title. And then I also added as another keyword part of that, which is, what is the specific area that I needed to fill. So I literally have built a team of 15 individuals based on LinkedIn and doing a lot of A/B testing in terms of the titles, the subject lines. I've tried a lot of different things. Some things don't work at all. Some things do work. I've noticed, especially if you're a startup in this particular space, if you add stealth to the title, for some reason, I was getting like a 70% response rate versus if I didn't have the stealth in there, I was getting maybe a 5%. So that was early on. Now we're past the stealth phase, so I can't use that anymore. So now I had to get even more creative. When you're reaching out to people to come onto your team that are willing to come on for equity, it's not easy to do. So you have to be really creative and very targeted, and you have to understand and get to know that person. It's not just about copy and pasting and sending it out to everybody who's a data scientist. It's about looking at their profiles, understanding what gets them to tick specifically based on their interests, based on their posts, and custom tailoring, even a small manipulation of the copy paste, but custom tailoring the message to that person so they can understand what you're trying to say. And that applies to anybody in business. And I think that's, what I was doing specifically when I was in digital marketing consulting, which we were working on sentiment analysis engines, voice search engines, and chatbots that were all intended to understand the customers in real time and what their needs were so that the organizations could respond accordingly. And that's basically, I'm taking a line out of that and applying it to the cryptocurrency space to not only build my business, but to also gain customers and investors.
Yeah, that's very smart and very refreshing too, Jeremy, because I I speak to business owners all the time, and when it comes to marketing and digital marketing, it's like hello, not too familiar with that, right? They do their craft well, and as they should, but having this combined background in your case is proving very valuable. Have you tried also sending them over to like a lander where you're presenting sort of through a VSL or something similar to try and sort of move them there, or has it been more direct messaging on LinkedIn?
So LinkedIn is how I started this thing and how I built the team and started reaching out to investors and getting some traction and becoming, trying to become a thought leader in the space, which is half the battle, right? You have to be out there. You have to put content out there, because if somebody's going to look up your profile after you reach out to them, typically they look at your profile to see if you're legit, see who you're connected with. So for me, it's also the shared and mutual connections. I realize if there's some credible players in the space that we share that connection with, they're a lot more likely to be able to convert to somebody who actually connects with me. But yes, in essence, we'd move them over and try to get them in our marketing funnel. We'd put them in our email campaigns. Obviously, with their approval, I'd ask for their email to see if they wanted to stay up to date in terms of what the company's doing. On our website, we have a referral program. So if somebody refers their friends or other people that are interested in our products, then they get bumped up in the queue to get access to our beta program. So we're trying to incentivize people to bring other people to us, and thus giving them the ability to get access to things a lot quicker. It's things that, Rognerud has done. There's a lot of companies that have done this. I think Dropbox did this when they first started. So, we're just taking the best of the best of everything that we've seen from successful companies, trying to grow their user base, and we're just deploying that for CoinGenius, and it's seemingly working.
That's so killer. That's great. Yeah, Robinhood is awesome as well, guys and gals, if you haven't checked that out. But we're really here talking to Jeremy Bourne and CoinGenius.ai here. If you're coming in live, you'll see this on the screen, obviously here. And if they were to reach out to you, where is the best place to reach you, Jeremy?
Yeah, sure. So they can go on the website, www.CoingGenius.ai. You can reach out to us on the contact form, stay up to date as to what's going on. You can always follow me on Twitter at Jeremy_Born, BORN. You can follow us on Twitter at CoingGenius_AI. Outside of that, we're at a lot of different conferences. We're actually going to be at Crypto Invest Summit starting tomorrow up in LA. I'll be speaking on stage, and I'm also on the panel talking about the future of blockchain technologies and distributed ledger technologies as well. So if you're out in LA, please meet up with me. I'd love to have a conversation.
That's fantastic. And just final here, I'd like to ask, you travel a lot, I'm sure. So any cool killer travel hacks that you could share with the listeners?
Oh, wow, that's a good one. You know what? It's like one of those things to where I've used kayak.com for a heck of a long time. I think Google's getting better for travel deals as well. But I mean, as far as travel hacks, I mean, it's about, for me, just getting things booked as soon as possible as a startup. I mean, we have to, make sure that we're deploying capital in a smart way. So booking as early as possible for me has been the key to be able to save money. But as far as travel hacks outside of that, I'm not the expert on that. I just go where I'm told and I speak where I'm told. So I'm actually open. If anybody has travel hacks for me, please reach out to me and let me know. I'd love to hear it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's great. Yeah, great. So any final words, Jeremy? Anything we missed here that you'd like to share?
No, like I said, I think this is, cryptocurrency and blockchain, very interesting industry. I think we're starting to see mass adoption. I think institutional players are coming into the space. I think the SEC is definitely warming up to it a little bit. I think ultimately an ETF will get approved. I think the long-term viability of this particular industry is very great. I think if you're thinking about getting in, like I said, this is not financial advice, but how I look at it as it's a diversification tactic in terms of my portfolio, a little bit in real estate, a little bit in stocks, and a little bit in crypto. I think you can't go wrong, right? So it's one of those things to where I see the future as being very, very bright, and I see some of the largest brands in the world adopting this technology, and it's really disrupting a lot of different things, and it's about to, especially as it relates to supply chain management, even advertising. Things are becoming tokenized through the proliferation of something called a security token, which is basically you're tokenizing an asset into shares via a token. So we're starting to see that deployed. So eventually you're going to see a lot of physical assets that didn't have a lot of immediate liquidity become very, very liquid through the utilization of things like security tokens to where you can actually trade them on an exchange. And that is when you're going to see the mass adoption and some interesting things happen.
Yeah. So the the summary there is a research, analysis, diversification, learning, education. And by the way, guys and gals, you can get this all. Obviously, listen to this again. There's a lot of detail here that you may have missed. And Jeremy Born, the CEO of CoinGenius.ai, has joined us today. It's been a real pleasure, Jeremy. And I wish you all the best. And obviously, we're in contact now, so we'll stay connected going forward, and we're watching each other in the space here.
Thanks so much, John. Appreciate you having me on.
Likewise. Take it easy.
Have a good one. You too. Bye-bye.